What's up, y'all? The NBA season is back, and while teams continue to find their footing, our partners at FANATICS Sportsbook are already running championship plays. Bet with Fanatics and earn up to 10% fan cash on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring fan cash, which you can use on NBA gear, tickets, and exclusive Fanatics events. And with fair play, if your players go down injured in the first half, your bet stays live. Make the switch and get more ways to win with FANATICS Sportsbook. Winning hits different here.
All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by FANATICS Sportsbook. It is your boy, Jonathan Macri, here to talk about a game that is going to provide us with a slightly more interesting conversation than it would have maybe 45 or so minutes ago. That would have been certainly an interesting and entertaining conversation. It's just a little bit of a bit different conversation now after what was a 133-120 victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. Your game recap in short is the Knicks the Knicks offense was yet again unstoppable. That's going to be the main talking point of tonight's show. And their defense was good enough, I would say, for most of this game. And then they got up by 28 points and they started to relax. And the Memphis Grizzlies had some chances to make this thing interesting. But they are a team that is in a very bad place right now. They ended up with, I'm not sure exactly how many turnovers. It was a lot of turnovers. It was over 20 turnovers. And here we are talking about a game and a win that I don't think, for me at least, was ever really in doubt. Final turnover number for Memphis was 22. But the last quarter or so of basketball, if you want to extend it a little bit further than that, definitely made it a bit of a different tenor. Mostly because the Knicks are now on the first night of a back-to-back. You look at what the minute totals ended up being. Mikal Bridges, 37. Jalen Brunson, 35. OG Anunoby, 35. Josh Hart with 30 off the bench. You hope that this early in the season, though, the extra probably 5 or so minutes that the key players played tonight won't hold them back too much tomorrow night against the Orlando Magic. But again, I think the lead takeaway should probably be the fact that I'm sitting here talking about minutes and back-to-backs, and are they going to be as well rested as they could be tomorrow against the Orlando Magic? That should tell you everything you need to know about just how good this team is playing and just how much they are firing on not some cylinders, but all cylinders. It was not that long ago that this is a team where if you had a guy like OG Anunoby take 10 3-pointers in a game and make one of those 10 threes, you were probably looking at an uphill battle in terms of winning a game, because the Knicks only have so many key players, or at least coming into the season, that was the perception. And when one of them is ice cold from three and puts up a lot of attempts and only makes one of them, well, then probably going to struggle. And yet tonight, that didn't really hurt them at all. Look no further than the fact that OG Anunoby was a plus 24 in this game, despite that 1 for 10 shooting line from deep. He was also awesome inside the arc, for whatever that's worth. But because the Knicks offense is playing so free and with so much poise, and they are able to get seemingly whatever shot they want, whenever they want it. When you have certain guys that, hey, it's not their night from three, it's not a huge deal. And that has to be the lead story from this game. And that has to be the lead story from the first 10 games of this season, in which I was at least preparing for an adjustment to Mike Brown's offense. And yes, I will say, sorry, Zach Lowe, I will say Mike Brown's offense, because it is a very different offense. And watching this offense versus watching the offense that we've seen for the last 5 years, does it have some of the same concepts? Yeah, of course it has some of the same concepts. Is it his offense Did he invent this offense? Absolutely not. We saw this in Cleveland last year. We've seen concepts of this going back, well before that. Certainly from Mike Brown's time in Golden State, when they did a lot of the stuff that he is now instituting. So it is not his, and it's not like they didn't do any of this. But I'm going to go back to the phrase that I have probably used more in the early going this season than any other, and that is buy-in. They have bought in. And my fear before the season started was that because these guys attained so much success under the previous head coach and doing things the way they used to do things, that if they hit some early bumps in the road, would that challenge the buy-in? Sure enough, after a 2-0 start, the team lost 3 in a row. There was a lot of conversation about this, that, and the other thing. What has the team done since then? Absolutely annihilated everybody that has dared to step foot in their path. Now, we have to, the conversation tonight cannot be too exuberant without at least mentioning the competition that they faced. And the Memphis Grizzlies, a once proud franchise, a once proud organization, once proud team, are not that right now. And despite the fact that they did almost come back and tried kind of sort of to make it an interesting game after being down by 28 points, this is a dead team walking. And this is not Grizzlies postgame, so we're not going to spend too much time on them. But the way they kicked the ball around tonight, the way Ja Morant, how he played really the entire evening, I'm actually curious to see what his plus minus probably actually rebounded because he was on the floor for that run, even though I don't know that he played an instrumental part in it. He ended up only being a minus 16. But like, this was not a great competition. Nor were the Nets, nor were the Wizards. The Bulls were, and the Wolves kind of were, even though Anthony Edwards wasn't really fully Anthony Edwards yet. So have they been tested to a real degree yet as far as these 5 games on this homestand? I would say probably not. The Bulls were the best team, crazy enough, that they faced, and the Bulls defense is not exactly, the 96 Bulls or whatever, 04 Pistons, whatever comp you want to make. Will they be tested? Yeah, they will. Maybe tomorrow night against an Orlando team that has underwhelmed defensively. Shout out to Fred Katz for his stat of the day. They're not fouling as much as they need to, but they're still a good defense, and they'll play other good defenses in due time. But we'll focus on that when the time comes, because when we're talking about the transition and we're talking about getting used to everything, I didn't frankly care who they played. I still had my fears that this was A, going to work with their personnel, and B, again, that there was going to be buy-in. And to say that it is working with their personnel, it is, after 10 games, this offense looks like, how could this personnel possibly have ever played in any other offense? Because this looks so suited for their skills. And yes, I am saying that on a night when the Knicks put up a franchise record, ended up at 55 3-pointers. They've never put up that many 3-pointers in a game before. The previous high was 54, which they had done once before the season, and they did about 2 weeks ago against the Miami Heat. This is going to become a thing. This is not the last time the Knicks will attempt 53s in a game this season. I can promise you that. They are going to, this game might put them atop the league lead in terms of average 3-point attempts per game. They're going to be up there, as they should be. And you look at the 3-point shooting tonight. OG Anunoby had a bad night from 3. He has been one of the, full stop, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league this season, at least on a catch and shoot basis. He had an off night tonight. He's allowed. The rest of the team, Cat 3 of 8, Bridges 3 of 9, kind of a cold night for Bridges, but again, he has been one of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the league this season. Shamet 2 of 4. We're going to get back to Shamet in a bit. Jalen Brunson. Oh, we're going to talk about Jalen. 6 of 9. How's that? Yabusele only took 1. He missed it. Clarkson 3 of 5. Hart 1 of 3. McBride 3 of 6. None of those numbers that I just read, I guess outside of Brunson, you can't ever expect, even if he's your MVP candidate, a guy to go 6 of 9. But guess what? That's offset by the 1 of 10 from OG and the 3 of 9 from Bridges. And frankly, the 3 of 8 from Cat, who kind of found the range tonight, but still is looking for it. These were all good shots. Every one of them. Maybe I have one or two that I'm not thinking of, but pretty much for the most part, these were all good shots. Now, you want to tell me, well, when the game's getting tight and it's the fourth quarter and the teams are going to come back, do we really need to continue to be hoisting threes? Didn't we just watch Boston do the exact same thing to their detriment in the playoffs last year? And that's why the Knicks were able to come back and win games 1 and 2? Abso-freaking-lutely. It is a valid criticism. And to that criticism, I will say this. I love the fact that they kept shooting threes. And you know why? Because if you would have asked me before the season, in a game like this, where the Knicks got up big and then the other teams started making a comeback, what would I have expected the Knicks to do? I would have expected them to revert right back to form and go into their old shell and go to their old offensive habits and ditch this new offense. And you know what? They never did it. Is there a balance to be achieved moving forward about in certain situations, time, place, game score, the whole thing? You might want to make an adjustment to some degree. Absolutely. We're 10 games into this thing. So the fact that maybe they didn't get that balance right. And oh, by the way, all the shots they took in the fourth quarter, and it's not like they shot horribly, but all the shots they took in the fourth quarter were good shots. And they ended the game shooting 40% from three. I'm not about to nitpick it. So the offense looked great the entire night. They had 35 assists on 47 made field goals. I should probably do. Let's see if I could. How close can I get in my head to what that percentage is? It is at least 70% because 70% would be 35 out of 50. So it's probably 74, 75, something. No, it's not 75. 74%, something like that. Maybe Andrew or Mark can whip out their calculator on their phone and give it. I'm going to go with 73. That's my final answer. That's a great number. And it is the fifth straight game that they have gotten over 35 assists. And you watch the offense and you're like, oh, of course this team is going to get over 35 or over 30 assists. And by the way, before I get too deep into the post game, I thought it was serendipitous. I don't know if that's the right word. Let's go with appropriate. Appropriate. That's a fitting word. That 5 straight games, over 30 assists. They've only exceeded that number, matched or exceeded that number twice in the history of the franchise. The last time they did it, do you know who was on the roster and who was the leading assist man on the roster? Michael Ray Richardson for the Knicks in the very late 70s. And I just want to offer condolences to his family and just say rest in peace to Michael Ray Richardson, who was obviously a Knick before I was born. But you don't have to look far to know how good of a player Michael Ray Richardson was. He was just look at his basketball reference page, and you'll see the all defenses, and you'll see the all-star appearances, and you will see the steals per game numbers that look fake when you compare them to like the steals that guys get today. I mean, it's a different league in that sense a little bit, but insane steal numbers. And he was part of some really interesting teams that kind of get forgotten about because they never made, I don't even think they made a conference final ever, but he was part of some good teams. And he was arguably the best player on those teams. And so, I almost certain I had him within my top 20 Knicks ever when I did my top 75 a few years ago. But awesome Knick, great Knick, rest in peace. And I thought it was fitting that maybe, one of the, 2 or 3 best passers in franchise history. That was the guy that was leading the charge the last time the Knicks had at least 5 straight games with 30 assists. And now they're doing it again, except they don't really have a Michael Ray Richardson level passer on the team, or certainly not in the rotation. And yet they're still doing it. And that is going to be a good transition to me talking about a guy who at this point, I guess I just have to say, it's my favorite Knick in franchise history. I got the him t-shirt on tonight. I had to put it on after that performance. A 32 points on 19 field goal attempts, 10 assists, 5 rebound, not team high. OG was team high plus 24. Second best on the team, plus 20, Jalen Brunson. 6 turnovers, uncharacteristic. Some of those I actually do attribute to him still getting adjusted to an extent to this offense. But yeah, okay, not ideal. But other than that, and I mentioned the 6 of 9 from 3. And look, this is one of those games where you needed Jalen Brunson to get up big in the first place, and then you needed Jalen Brunson to carry you home. And getting back to the point that I was making a minute ago, which was they never reverted back into their old shell. Yeah, Brunson got the ball and maybe manufactured a bucket or two down the stretch there, but there was a moment when it was 119-103, so it was getting a little close. And then JB, and they even said it on the broadcast, that JB dribbling the ball top of the key. I think Novak was like, yeah, a little bit more dribbling than we've been seeing. Dribble. And what do you expect? You expect Brunson to go into a move and take the shot, the whole thing. And what does he do? Rifles a pass to Landry Shamet in the corner, pump fake, go, foul, new possession. How does that next possession end? Of course, on a Jalen Brunson 3-pointer. So I thought that was such a perfect possession to kind of sum up. Again, I've used this phrasing before, the old and the new of this offense. I just mentioned Shamet. I might as well stick with him for a second. Only played 20 minutes. Mitchell Robinson sat out. And actually, I'm going to distract myself again because I should know, no Mitchell Robinson in this game. And the beauty of this Knicks team, and I'm going to steal this from Benji when he joined me on the opening monologue, whatever it was, a week or so ago, when I was like, which style is the Knicks' best style, right? Which look, with Mitch at the 5 or Cat at the 5, and Benji without hesitation just said both. And why do I think of that right now? I think of that right now because in this game, in a game like this, you know who you could have used in the fourth quarter there to maybe put their foot down and end any notions of a Grizzlies comeback with defense and offensive rebounding? Mitchell Robinson. And the beauty of it is that when he's healthy, you have access to both lineups. You have access to this ungodly 5-out look that is putting up 130 points like it's nothing. They just set a franchise record, 3 straight games, 130 or more points. And you have access to a lineup where you could throw out Mitchell Robinson, who is a all-defense caliber player, and OG Anunoby, who is an all-defense caliber player, and Mikal Bridges, who is playing like an all-defense caliber player. 4 steals for Mikal Bridges tonight. Not bad. And you could give all these different looks, and it's this beautiful thing, and you could win in these different ways, and you need to win in different ways in the NBA because your opponent is going to be different, not even from game to game, but within games. And so they didn't have that tonight. Part of the reason why I think the game got close, but it is what it is. Landry Shamet, great job. I love the fact that I know there's been some discussion. Shamet ahead of Deuce in the rotation. Look, Deuce has been good this season. Plus minus is very good. I think Shamet just like Mike Brown looks at it and he's like, you know what? I kind of like get Deuce off the bench, keeping him in that role. And then when I need a spot start, I like Shamet in there. And guess what? I like him too. Dude hits shots, plays his butt off on defense. Is he undersized? Yeah. Is he a perfect player? No. But I thought he played wonderfully, especially out of the gate with the starting 5. So I thought that was a nice adjustment. And then Jordan Clarkson, congratulations, 10th most points off the bench in NBA history. Knicks PR tweeted that earlier today. I thought Clarkson gave them some good minutes. Shout out to 2 other guys. Gershon Yabusele been getting crapped on a lot in Knicks land. He contributed tonight. I know he only scored 2 points. He only made 1 field goal. He was a plus 13. And hey, without Mitchell Robinson, you needed the non-cat minutes to not fall and land flat on their face. And they didn't. And it was because of Gershon. Again, was he perfect? No, but he was good enough. And again, plus 13 to 15 minutes. I don't think that was a complete misnomer. He'll continue to get better. And then Josh Hart, before I get to the last guy I want to mention, just some exceptional passes. Not all assists are created equal. You have a guy sometimes who might get an 8 or a 6 or an 8 assist game, and you go back and watch, and it's like, yeah, there was maybe 1, maybe 2 real dimes in there. Josh Hart, at least half of those assists were dimes, capital D dimes. He is, to talk about a guy who is making a smooth transition into this offense. Oh my Lord, is Josh Hart an absolute? I mean, hand in glove fit. He's taken enough threes. He's hitting enough threes, and everything else is exactly where you want it to be. And then the last guy that I want to mention before I move on to the Super Chats is Karl-Anthony Towns. If not for Brunson having the game that Brunson had, I think Karl-Anthony Towns would have been my player of the game. Because from a process standpoint, and again, shout out to the most recent episode of the Zach Lowe Pod, where he had Fred Katz on, because I think it was, I forget which one of them mentioned it. I think it was Zach. If it was you, Fred, I apologize. I'm going to give Zach credit. But one of them mentioned that a play where Karl-Anthony Towns displayed patience, where he wasn't in a rush and somebody set a screen. I think it was Zach. And he took a couple steps behind the arc and just calmly drained a three, because that was what was there for him. And I thought of that actually twice tonight. I thought of that in the first quarter when Landry Shamet did the exact same thing. He juked the guy, and then instead of taking the mid-ranger, just stepped behind the arc and made a corner three. And then I thought of it again early in the fourth quarter when Karl-Anthony Towns had the ball in the pinch post, and he's kind of whirling it around, and you could tell he's trying to decide am I driving? I forget who he had on him, but it was someone he could have driven on. He's like, should I put it up? He's like looking around, and then he just waited. And he waited until someone cut around to 5 feet behind him, behind the 3-point arc. And Karl-Anthony Towns just turned around and he threw the ball to whoever it was and set a back screen. And I apologize. I forget who it was. Oh, it was an OG. It was OG. It was the 1-3 he made. It was the 1-3 OG had ever made all night. And it was the simplest little play, but it was Karl-Anthony Towns displaying patience. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see. He's playing out of his mind well. 21 and 13, 4 offensive boards. He had 4 assists. How about this line? 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. And those were legit defensive plays. And they needed them tonight. Again, as Memphis was kind of making their run. So, look, was the game closer than it should have been? Absolutely. Are there nits to pick? Absolutely. I was off. Mark's telling me 74.4 assist percentage. I got 73. I thought it was, yeah. I knew it wasn't 75, but it's just under 75, close to 75. So I was off by a percentage point. I'm not going to kill myself for that. But this is great stuff. This is great stuff where their offense is right now. And as a team, I think they're feeling good about themselves. They're going to wake up tomorrow with the number 1 offense in basketball. They were already the number 1 offensive basketball if you go to cleaning the glass, which filters out garbage time. All the numbers you want to see, they're all where you want them to be, other than the defense. And again, I'm willing to give them something of a pass. And in this game in particular, I should have just said this at the top. I think they got bored. You go up by 28 points against a team that was putting that forth, that kind of an effort. I think they got bored. It's not doesn't mean they could do it, again and live to get away with it, because it's not going to work against a lot of teams. But tonight, I think that's what happened, and it didn't end up mattering. Let's hope it doesn't matter tomorrow. Let's hope energy isn't a problem either out of the gate. They seem to be getting inspired by the home crowd. They remain perfect at home, 7-0. That's really cool. And what would be cooler than a perfect 7-game homestand, which I don't know if that they've ever had a perfect 7-game homestand, but maybe they will this time around. Must be 21 or over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See Fanatics Sportsbook app.